Sandown for the Touring Car Masters. No, it's not the 60s or the 70s. We're getting set for this first race of the weekend for the penultimate round of the Touring Car Masters, presented by Autobahn. But in 2 weeks' time, if you purchase your ticket by the end of this week coming to the Sydney Telstra 500, you could win a hot lap with Mark Scaife in the brand new Car of the Future. Purchase your ticket to the Sydney Telstra 500, jump onto the V8 Supercar website, and in 3 words describe Car of the Future. Bit of a competition of skill, not chance, so make sure you go to the website. Dick Johnson's with me for this one. Andrew Mediki's on pole in the Camaro. Your old mate John Bowers on the front row. And Tony Edwards has got this Tirana cranking very nicely. It's on row 2, but we've got a mixed up grid because of the wet qualifying earlier on today.
We certainly have, Noons, and I tell you what, I think Bowie is playing a bit of a card here, because the inside line where pole position is normally much slipperier than it is on the outside where the cars normally run. So I think he was very happy to be second on the grid.
Doesn't happen very often that you're happy to be second, but Jim Richards, he starts further back. He's 11th on the grid, which is probably the lowest he's ever been. I can't remember a time that he hasn't been on the first couple of rows at least.
He didn't want to get the car dirty.
Oh, well, that sounds like Jim, doesn't it? Paul Freestone's taken over Brett Yilden's Monaro this weekend. And welcome back to Philip Showers, who is in the Escort. And that's going to be a struggle, I think, up against all of this heavy muscle somehow, because this is the way the championship sits. John Bower leads Class C, which is for the outright cars. He leads from Jimmy Richards and Andrew Mediki with 1 round to go at Sydney Olympic Park in a fortnight's time. So that is far from done, and the championship combatants will line up the front. Just trying to get Bernie Stack into his grid position there in the Bob Middleton Camaro. So Bob's got 2 cars here. Mediki's driving 1. Bernie Stack on the second row in the red 1970 model. Good field of cars. 30 entered for this weekend after a bit of a smaller field on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago. Camaro and Mustang.
Some on slicks and probably some on wet weather tyres. So it's interesting.
Oh, look for the Porsche. Greg Keane makes a stunning start. He qualified 5th outright. Amazing in that car. But it's starting to dry out, but he's made a big jump. He's got to second. Bow's taken the lead, and the poleman Andrew Mediki's been swamped. Exactly.
Just like I said, you know, once you get into the point where there's a greasy line on the inside there, it's hard to get the car moving.
Look at the mixture. Standard TCM stuff. Camaros, Monaros, Tiranas, Mustangs, Falcons, Porsches, and Chargers even.
And a lot of them on slick tyres, which in these conditions is very, very slippery. And as you can see, it takes a while for the heat to sort of build up in the tyre.
On board with Alistair McLean in the big Camaro. He just can't get it to the ground. The Porsches will grab him here. Amanda Sparks is off to the left there in the silver Porsche.
She's done a fantastic job all year. Her and her husband have been fighting one another.
But Greg's got away. He's right up fighting with the heavy muscle. Chris Steele, Nigel Benson there, who qualified the best he's ever qualified in TCM, 7th overall.
And these are very difficult conditions, these sort of things, because some patches are wet, some patches are dry.
Leaders are skipping away. Jimmy Richards is trying to get his way through the order. There is the red XB Coupe that normally is driven by Eddie Albanese, but his good mate Kim James stepped into that car this weekend, so he's double duty between Utes and TCM.
Look at the understeer, like the poor thing. But once it gets to the straightaways, the V8s absolutely swamp the little cars. And here comes Medeki.
And he's chasing Tony Edwards in the big SLR 5000 Tirana that's had all sorts of engine problems. When it's been going well, it goes well, but they've had some dramas. They've got a new engine block in that car for this weekend, and Tony is a guy who really drives it hard.
Well, it's allowed Bowie to skip away a little bit, which I'm sure he's very relieved of, because Bowie in these sort of conditions is extremely good, and so is Jimmy Richards. And as you can see him coming up through the field.
Oh, Bernie Stack nearly lost it there on the dirt that's been left behind. I noticed too that Kim James got a massive dint in the door.
Those XB doors are hard to find, I can tell you.
It's not his XB either.
That's why it's got a dint in the door.
You'll have to give that one back at the end of the weekend.
Remember that, like Eric Banner's car.
Yeah. Eric ended up remodelling his a little at Target Tasmania. Jimmy Richards, 8th overall, reigning champ in that 64 Falcon Sprint. Just behind him on the road there is young Elliot Barber, who we've seen Elliot race Formula Ford this year. He's had a little bit of a run in this charge. He's only a young guy in a category that is generally full of more senior drivers. So there he is there, the 75 Charger.
He probably wasn't born when these things were...
He probably wasn't born when V8 Supercar started, just about.
Too true.
John Bower is leading the way. He's edging clear on this opening couple of laps.
And Jane is really, you can see he's not paying the bills.
This is the first race of 3 for the weekend for TCM. We'll see them again on race day extra tomorrow, and then in a fortnight's time at the Sydney Telstra 500 as the 3 championships. Remember that there's Class C, the bigger cars that run at the front. There's Class B, which Gary O'Brien in the HQ Monaro has been dominating. He's 13th overall at the moment as Cam Tilley back in the Mustang this weekend slips by Nigel Benson, and in Class A it's Greg Keane in the Porsche, who he's still 6th overall. They haven't managed to push him back in the field just yet. That was tight.
Well, these are the sort of conditions that the Porsche would sort of relish in, because all the weight's down the back. That's excuse me.
I don't think there was an excuse me there.
But with all the weight down the back with the Porsche and the engine over the rear wheels, oh, that was a bit dodgy too. It just sort of gives them that much better drive out of the corners.
Richards up the inside of Bernie Stack. We've seen Bernie race Porsches for quite some time in TCM. He stepped into this car this year. Gavin Bullis had a steer of this Camaro at the last round on the Gold Coast. Replay here for Shannon's. That's Kim Jane having a wobble. Just makes it around the tyre bundle. Still trying to get power to the road. And in the background, I reckon Gary O'Brien in that black Monaro might have ended up off the road. Kim definitely was.
And that's where it all starts. That water that's running across the track there comes from the horse racing track, which has obviously got a lot of stuff in it that's rather slippery.
Ah, yes, indeed. Now, in front here, out of our shot, Greg Keane is still in front of Kim Jane. There he is. He's running down the inside of the road, Dick, which leads you to believe that he's on wet weather tyres trying to keep them cool.
He very well could be, because in certain areas of the racetrack he's very, very quick when you look at the splits.
Kim Jane just had the rear step, and he was nearly gone again. This car's new to TCM this year. They extended, I guess, the rules bracket, the years of eligibility for types of cars to join in, to allow, I guess, more some of the Aussie muscle cars of the early to mid 70s to compete with the American muscle that have really dominated.
Well, and as time goes on, they'll keep updating that. So all the later model cars will actually get in.
No chance for Greg Keane down here, though. His little Porsche just doesn't have the poke in a straight line.
Oh, that's a brave one too, Jimmy.
He's been around it.
He sure has. He knows where he's going. Oops.
Oh, that is Elliot Barber stepping out of the Charger that was running top 10. It's on the exit of turn 1, approaching turn 2. We've seen Elliot race Formula Ford, and he's done a bit of state racing in the past, but unfortunately this Charger, well, it was quick while it lasted, but it didn't last. That was the problem. Now, I just saw in front a shot here, that green Monaro, there it is. Paul Freestone's driving that car this weekend. That's the car that we normally see Brett Youlden race. He started 26th. In 4 laps, he's made it to 11th.
He's done a great job. Obviously, because he relishes these sort of conditions more so than the wet.
There's a real mixture of lap times from all the different types of cars. That's the beauty of TCM, a category that celebrates, I guess, where we've come from, 60s and 70s Australian touring car racing. It's not strictly historic racing. There's some modifications that are allowed to the cars for safety and for performance and for reliability and the like. Les Walmsley here in the coupe. This is, in fact, that's the four-door, I should say. That was Ross Armour nearly off the road. That's the car that we've seen Mark King race previously, the 11 Falcon. There it is. And they're running a bit further back towards the tail of the top 20.
And you can see when it's starting to dry out, they're starting to use the curbs more and things like that, because when they're wet, they are extremely slippery.
Well, think about this track here at Sandown. We were talking about it off air before this race started. This is, I guess, the modern Sandown layout. You've raced on the, well, I guess it's infamous, but everyone hated it, the infield, didn't they? And then there was the old Sandown, which is the same length as this track, but it was a little faster through the causeway coming onto the straight, and the old pits that were down where we have turn 2 and 3 now. So it really is a great little track.
It is a fantastic racetrack and always has been. It's obviously got 1 or 2 bumps in it, but that's the nature of the beast that we've got.
It's character, Dick. That's what gives it character.
And it's the same for everyone.
We're on board with Alistair McLean. He runs P9 in race 1 of Touring Car Masters. The man to chase is John Bowe. He leads by 8.7 seconds, a very handy margin. This is Sandown, this is Touring Car Masters, and this is a 69 Camaro. Alistair McLean is at the helm. We're running 9th overall. Don't forget, Armour All qualifying for the Norton 360 Sandown Challenge. And the V8 Supercars is coming up, but let's get in a different supercar. This is an American supercar. We're looking back at Bernie Stack for that run down the back straight. Tony Edwards here, second. Pole man Andrew Medicki, third. But Dick Johnson, problem. John Bowes leading by 9.8 seconds. He's absolutely draining them.
Well, this is typical of JB. You know, he's a very calculative sort of a person. He will actually, like I said before, he got the right side of the road during qualifying. It was wet, made sure he was second on the grid, so he got off to a good start. We knew Andrew would have trouble on the inside because it's damp there, and this is proving really, really good for some of the other competitors. This has been a while since this guy's been in front of Andrew Medicki.
Well, John Bow just did a 122.8. Edwards did a 25.0 and Medicki a 23.7. So he's comfortably got the fastest car out there. Maybe that's why you had him as a co-driver. You did win 2 Sandown 500s after all.
We did, actually.
Took you a while. You had to come here a few times before you got that done.
Exactly right, mate. Your career's never complete unless you win one of those.
True. Have a look at this. This is Greg Keane. This Porsche is hanging on. He's still in the top 10. They haven't been able to push the little German car out of the order. And I guess a lot of our younger fans might not remember or know that a Porsche nearly won the Australian Touring Car Championship.
It's strange you should say that, but I was up in the area in the paddock club up the top there, and would you believe one of the guys that I ran into up there was Jimmy King.
Really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He used to drive one of those.
Yeah, legend of touring car racing. This is Cam Tilley in the blue Mustang. We saw Cam in the Pacer on the Gold Coast, but it barbecued, unfortunately. So he's jumped back into the Boss Mustang this weekend. He's 9th overall.
And he was going gangbusters down the Gold Coast.
He was going to win a race.
He certainly was.
But it just went pear-shaped with a couple of laps to go. This is a change for second spot. Shannon's replay, and Andrew Medicki slips up the inside at Dandenong Road corner.
Just runs a little bit wide there and gets a little bit into the wheel.
Back with McLean, 8th overall, and chasing a man who has been there and done it all. Jimmy Richards, let's soak it up.
Like, Jimmy hasn't made that much of an impression at this point in time, which is quite unusual.
Yeah, 7th overall. This is the fight for the tail of the top 10 with Tilley and Bernie Stack. But I went and did a bit of research last night, DJ. 40 years ago, well, 40 in a bit because it was in April 1971 was when the Australian Touring Car Championship was here. That weekend, a Mustang won the race. Alan Moffat at the wheel, but he got excluded, so it was a Camaro with Bob Jay that got the win. So at the moment, it's a Mustang leading a Camaro. I don't think history's going to repeat, though, somehow.
Yeah,
I think the Mustang's home.
Now have a look at Medicki, now that he's got around the Tirana. His times are really starting to show the fact that he's got the speed in the car but missed the start.
I've got a problem with that, though. It's the 12.4 second margin that JB's been able to fill. He's actually, that time around, Medicki sets a new fastest lap of the race, a 22.5. So it's 12.5 seconds the margin with 4 to run. Gary O'Brien, the Class B leader, has clanged the fence. This car was involved in a crash on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago.
That is exactly what happens when you get those curbs and you go to turn into that corner and the rear tyres are wet. And I don't think that Monaro or GDS Commodores or Falcons going, or should I say?
Well, it probably feels like a Commodore. It's not quite a Monaro. Red flag is out. Race will be stopped. Just tripped it over, following Nigel Benson. Oh, that is heavy, and that will need
heavy.
That guardrail will probably need a bit of repair as well. So that's a shame for it to end. He does lead in Class B. He's been the man to beat this year, but he's just lost the tail of it there.
Got onto the wet
and got a double clang. Then he hit with the left rear, and then it dragged the left front around. So this race will be no doubt declared with 8 laps gone. Red flag out. And we had this drama last year with a race that became a no race here at Sandown for TCM. So the results will be declared. And obviously, it was a 12-lap race. We got through 8, so we got 2/3 of the way through. Probably not enough for championship points to be awarded. So
75% is norm.
Yeah, exactly. So shame for Gary O'Brien. But this is the order that they were running in John Bow was the form man. Mediki next from Tony Edwards. Kim Jane did a pretty good job. He didn't that Falcon, though. Maybe someone else did it for him, though. He finished fourth from... Absolutely, exactly. Graham Alexander 5th in the Monaro. Jimmy Richards in 8th. Cam Tilley 9th. And Bernie Stack rounded out the top 10 in TCM. That is the reason why we've stopped and the red flag is out. Shannon's replay showing again Gary O'Brien in the Monaro just losing the rear. And wait for it. Boom. Double boom. Left front hits as well. And we're going to have to do some work on that one to get it ready for the rest of the weekend and indeed for the final round in Sydney in a fortnight's time. Just following Nigel Benson through and easy to do.
And you're going very, very quick down there. It's the fastest part of the racetrack.
So John Bow emerges through it all in TCM. They're done. They'll be back tomorrow on Race Day Extra, but plenty ahead with the V8 Supercars. Armour qualifying not too far away.
And have a look. The weather's coming in too.
Translation with a hope, your nation, they say